This is Suzanne from Sex Advice for Seniors, and I'm really excited to be with a bit of a legend, if I'm honest, because some people have said she's a bit of a legend. I've spoken to her a couple of times before, and I'd like to introduce you to Amara Charles, who is the CEO of Deeply Bonded Love and the author of The Sexual Practices of Kwadushka. And she's got over 30 years of guiding high achievers to transform their marriages and rediscover their true selves. And what I love about Amara is that unlike so many other people that are doing this sort of work, she actually practices what she preaches because she's actually been in a loving relationship for over 2 decades, which is more than most people have. And in fact, a lot of practitioners are not in any relationship at all, I find, or certainly not one that's very long. So it's nice to talk to somebody who actually knows how to maintain a long-term relationship because I know that's something that lots of people struggle with. But anyway, we are going to talk about that specifically, really, because we know that oftentimes people think that aging and getting older means sexual decline. But I wonder if you think that and, you know, what aging means around desire for you and the couples that you work with. So,
Yes,
hi.
well, yes. Well, thank you for that lovely intro, and I'm glad to be here. And, we often look at our sexuality, regardless of age, through the lens of, keeping things working and preventing decline. And, that really does matter. But the thing that interests me even more is what if our aging doesn't ruin sex? As I'm sure you've talked about many, many times, Susan, and what if it actually reveals it? I don't think the goal is getting back to something. I think it's an invitation to ask, okay, what kind of intimacy am I mature enough to create? And, all the things that go with aging, maybe my body isn't broken. Maybe it's just done performing the way I've been trying to get it to perform. Maybe it means that, we've really, it's not the end of something. It's not the end of an erotic love life. It's actually the beginning of a conversation. I liken it to maybe like a house that, we've been living in for 10 years. We just turned the lights on. We've been living there for decades. And, we look at it, the foundation, and it looks okay. It looks strong. I've been, as you say, in a relationship for like, 20 years or something. And I gotta be honest, it's rocky. Even yesterday, I mean, really rocky. And yet I look at it and I go, "Okay, the foundation is strong." And I'm serious. I mean, I really went through something, yeah, the last 2 days. And then, we look at, okay, so maybe the plumbing needs a little work. The wiring is outdated. Maybe we've been avoiding certain rooms, but maybe there's also some spaciousness for some renovation. And that's what I really want to talk about is, how do we reinvent our erotic life? Because the point isn't just to chuck the house and move out of the house. And the invitation is really to stop pretending that the layout that we started with is still working.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect that for a lot of people when they were younger, there's a woman that has just written a book in the UK called Pleasure, this woman, Emma Louise Boynton. And she's a woman in her early 30s. And she confessed in the writing of this book that's just come out that she hadn't had an orgasm for 5 years, right? And that she hadn't even known really how to experience pleasure with a partner, because especially as I think as a younger person, performance as a woman is kind of almost baked into how we learned how to have sex, right? A lot of us grew up with the notion that sex was primarily for men's pleasure and that ours was kind of secondary. And if we were lucky enough to learn about our bodies and not feel bad about masturbating and not feel ashamed about pleasure and everything, then we were lucky enough to be able to, to be able to have a good time. But I think that I suspect for a lot of people, they this now is a time, as you say, to go, you know what? I maybe this is the time to reinvent my sex life. Maybe I can actually stop performing for once and just like have a and just figure out this shit for myself. But then I look at a lot of my friends and I think some of those people who did all of that, what they do instead is they just give up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that I certainly see the same thing. And the thing I come to is that, we gotta be real, right? There is like a grieving. I think the body does change. And I do think that, the body in some ways is a truth teller in that, our it's less predictable. It's responding, it's less responsive. And it's impossible not to just feel that and to really get disappointed. And so would I say that there's a lot we can do before we just forfeit that part of our lives. We can reinvent our life and really look at the past in some ways of like, was the old stuff that great? Was it really mutual? Yeah.
Yeah,
Was it really real, or was it just all assumptions? Was it spacious or rushed? Was it present, or were we just playing familiar roles? And sometimes we're mourning and we're grieving something when really what's going on is that the old map just doesn't work. Like when we're younger, the speed and the automatic erection and the automatic wetness, it can cover a lot of stuff. It covers emotional connection that we don't know how to do when we're younger. It can, cover up emotional distance and a lack of pacing, a lack of care, a lack of what I call compassion, where we're not really aware of, the other person or let alone ourselves. And so, the point is the thing that leads to giving up is, this feeling like, well, I can't feel anything and I'm broken. And I really have a lot of compassion for that. And just like, we can't rush grief, we do need to feel that. And then I would like to really talk about, well, then what can we do?
yeah,
Then what
and
can we do?
yeah, and I completely hear you because when I turned 50 and I suddenly felt my libido going off the cliff, you know, after I'd been perpetually horny in my 40s, like couldn't get enough. And then my 50s, I was like, where's it gone? And it took about a decade, if I'm really honest, to get over the feeling that that wasn't coming back, right? That
Yeah.
feeling of being perpetually horny wasn't coming back, and I
Right.
wasn't gonna be able to do anything to get it back, and even though, I'm on testosterone and stuff, and it has come back to a certain extent, but nowhere near with the vibrancy that I had in my younger days, and I did grieve over that over the loss of that, and then, like you said, had to figure out, well, what does the new me look like now? And how can I work with that so that I'm still able to experience pleasure? And part of that, of course, is is being able to communicate with a partner that it's not I actually had a partner, like, I guess it was last year or something. We were having sex, and he said to me, "God, it takes you a long time to come, doesn't it?" And I thought, "Well, that's not really gonna work, honey." Like, for me, like,
That
time
what common. I mean,
it.
seriously? What a thing to say, right?
I just felt and
Dude, right.
yeah, I just thought you could not have made me feel any worse in
Yeah.
that moment than the now I feel totally inadequate. I feel like I'm not living up to your standards, and now I feel this tremendous pressure to
Yeah.
perform something which is actually kind of quite difficult, right?
Right, right. Well, I completely can, get how that must have felt. I mean, just god awful. And here's the thing, and I'm not saying that we're always gonna get this and we're always gonna be able to do this in real time. Hindsight's 2020, right? But what could happen is that you could stay in that moment. Like, let's just replay it for a sec, right? Like, if we had the wherewithal, we could ask, like, so it's taking you a long time. It takes you so long. And it's like, um, yeah, that's what I mean by reinventing. Yes, it does. It does take me. I mean, the courage just to say that, yes, it does take me. And, what could we do in that time? Do you have something better to do than this? I mean, there's so many ways that you can stay in the game if you don't take it as this, like, personal, like, it's over and the panic is real and the grief is real and it's terrifying, right? But what are you really losing? If you can learn, if you find someone that you can have a conversation with, because chances are they're going through something really similar too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They're not functioning, like, the same. So, like, if you can have that moment, I mean, look, maybe it does need to be slower.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe you do need more pauses, even pee breaks, Maybe you do need to start with conversation. Maybe it needs to be less goal oriented. Maybe touch is more intentional. What I find, and this is all about what I do in my spiritual sexuality workshops, is people talk all the time about slowing things down. But what I discover is that people don't have a clue, not a clue, of what to do if everything's slowed down. They're so used to this rush, rush, boom, boom, and then that's equates that counts. That counts. But this slow stuff, it's like, oh my God, it's kind of boring, right? And it's like, oh, and then it has room for your brain to just, make up all kinds of stuff. And then there's, like, pockets where you could feel ashamed, and then it could really go off the rails if you slow down. So people, I find, are really afraid sometimes
Yeah.
of slowing down, because looking more carefully and slowing down and really connecting, well, that's where the juice is. But that's also like, oh my God, he's really looking at me. He's really looking at me. And it's like, what is he gonna do? Right. And so it takes, like, the skills of building trust and communication. And what I make up is that I certainly am getting better at that with age. And I think you are too.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I think
for sure.
a lot of us are. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, now I'm really aware that I only really wanna be with somebody who is highly communicative when it comes to our intimate life. Like, it doesn't matter whether we're in a deep committed relationship or it's just casual. I have to be with somebody who's very expressive when it comes to their desires so I can be expressive about my own. Because what I don't want is to get into a situation where there's a whole load of assumptions and I find that suddenly I'm completely out of my depth. I'm like, oh, this is going too fast. This is all like fast and hard.
Yeah.
And fast and hard is not me. I'm not fast and hard anymore. Like, that was the younger me.
Right.
The older me is like, slow it down. Like, leave lots of room for foreplay. I want this to go on for a long time because I don't want to be rushed. Because if I'm rushed, I'm just going to get stressed out. So, I need,
Yeah, and then it leads to more pretending and more subterfuge, and then, like, because it brings in, like, these places where you could feel ashamed because it's not doing this, and so you have to be careful, because I don't think you can bypass the grief, the loss, and, because there really can be real loss. And, like, what you just shared is so beautiful, Suzanne, because it shows that, you've really asked yourself some questions about, like, all right, my body has changed, so that there's a period of acceptance. And what I say is this: when you're just starting that journey of trying to, we'll always say, listen to the body, but my body hurts, or my body's, like, numb, or what, I don't, just, it's like, you got to go through this phase. This is my own experience. I got to go through this phase of, like, well, my body doesn't feel anything. Okay. That's information.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And then the question was, okay, well, what can I do to bring a little sensation? My body's in pain. My body's dry. That's information. Okay, well, what can I do? Okay. And so there's two questions that I think really are important. And I talk about this all the time. It's like my favorite thing. What am I making it mean?
yeah,
Okay. If I say I don't feel anything, okay, well, what am I making that mean? I don't feel like it. Well, what am I making that mean? Okay.
yeah,
And then the second question is, okay, well, this is important. You can't just ask the first question. You got to ask the second one too. What else could it mean? It's a
yeah,
really, really quick way. It could mean I need a medical conversation. It could
yeah,
mean I need more touch. It could mean I need more gentleness. You see, if you start asking yourself questions first, it'll become easier and easier to ask for what you want to somebody else. I say where it starts, and this is how I like one time I was this is pretty recent, I my head was like, "Yeah, I finally feel something and I would like to make love and I'm interested and I feel I'm in a good place." And then I checked into my body, this is what I teach. I checked and my body went, "Nothing." I'm like, "Oh, dear. Okay. Well, what am I making this mean?" Well, maybe blah blah blah, whatever. And then,
yeah,
well, what else could it mean? So I asked that question. All right. So then what I did was I just put heart to heart and I dropped everything else. I just put my heart. And actually, honestly, to tell you the truth, I just started crying.
yeah,
I just started sobbing. And it was just this. And then there was a space for tenderness
mm,
that opened. See, the more real we get, like I was just super real. And then that opened a little pocket. One of the lights went on in my intimacy house. And it was like, ooh, there's a little more room here for some closeness and some intimacy. And then, I mean, it took when I just was there and stayed with it. And lo and behold, I'm not saying this is gonna magic button and it works every time, but for me that time, it was like it led to this really tender, sweet kissing. And then I expanded my erotic language and I went, ooh, this counts. This is intimacy. Ooh, and then the kissing led to more cuddling. And then that led to like some fantasy. And then it expanded, and it all started because, like I let myself really just feel like what I was feeling.
yeah, yeah. No, I really sense that. And I think, as we say, the goal isn't to get back to the sex we used to have, but, how do we create that new erotic language? And what does that look like? And, how do we have those conversations? I think for a lot of
Yeah.
people in long-term relationships, it like you said, it's around grief, it's around vulnerability, and it's sometimes around the lack of the vernacular, just around how do we talk about this?
Yes. Well, I really believe that later life sex can be playful again. And I don't mean by the spice it up kind of way. It can be freer and, we can be more real. I mean, there's certain things that you just can't ignore. You can't pretend it away, right? And so we're less self-conscious. Okay. If we're honest. And look, we've lived long enough to make up our own rules, right? And so we're just past it. We don't have to, try to pretend. Okay. So I do believe that we can bring in humor, tenderness, creativity. How do you do it? That's a great question. Like the language, the erotic language. Well, if we're looking at it and we just say simple things like, I'm not ready for intimacy tonight and my body needs more time.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. And sometimes this is one of the things I learned that a truthful no can make space for and make room for a trustworthy yes. A truthful no, I am not ready for intercourse right now. And I would like to be held. Or I am ready for, vaginal intercourse, but, sorry, anal is off the table tonight. Whatever you may be, right?
Yeah.
And so the a truthful no gives your body space to relax. And, look, if that no is overridden or ignored, or you're with somebody that just doesn't doesn't get that, well, that's a good sign to press pause and rethink the whole the whole situation,
Yeah.
because to keep going and keep going. I know I did that a lot when I was younger. Okay. But my
And
body won't do it now. I
no,
don't know if
no.
it's because I'm wiser or my body just can't do that. I'm just not gonna rush my body.
No, I agree, and I think, for me, there's a lot more storytelling that goes on, a lot more fantasy, a lot more kind of exploration around kind of role playing and things, which for me kind of create the erotic landscape, if you like, to be able to get myself into that space. I find it's not easy otherwise. I need people that wanna create, like, the story for me and the scene, because then my imagination starts going, "Oh, yeah, I'm involving myself in that." I find not everyone is capable of doing that. When I suggest that's what I need, they're like, "I don't really understand what you're talking about when you say that." I'm like, "You need to kind of set me up." Like like
Yes,
like,
yes, yes.
start me
Absolutely.
up, right?
Absolutely.
I can't just, like, slam into this, like you said. Either you've gotta either it's like you say, your body might be saying, "I'm not quite ready for this at the moment, but I might be ready to be held. I might be ready for a lovely massage. I might be ready to be stroked, or touched, or
Yes.
something that's just gonna activate my nervous system in a positive way," right? And just go like, "Ooh, something's going on here. That's exciting," right? Because
Right,
mainly, I'm not interested most of the time. Mainly, my body is like going, "Yeah, just get on with your other stuff. It's all good," right? But when it's activated by somebody who's just shows that kind of tenderness, it
mm.
all it kinda just perks up again. It goes, "Ah,
Yeah,
okay,
it's
we
there.
remember this."
It's definitely there, and, pressure is, like, the enemy of all this. It's like the minute I feel like there's an agenda or feel pressured or anything like that, that just takes it down, and that's one of the reasons why going to, places or setting up, we call them lovers' masks in Kudoshka, and
Yeah,
we have a whole range of personality that's
yep,
really playful, that's really fun to play with, and the trick is to remember to actually do that and to actually say, "Oh, we haven't played around this way in quite a while," and so, it takes, in many cases, like, an act of creativity or an act of will sometimes to
yeah,
say, "I know this will lead to some fun and to some pleasure." And if we sometimes the hardest part is just doing it, is just starting it, right? And the trick is, in my experience, is to just have some fun with this. Let go of the agenda if it works or it doesn't work or anything like that. But just really like honor yourself, be proud of yourself for like being a little initiating some creativity. Sometimes it just starts with remembrance of, like, let's talk about 10 things that were like our favorite things that we did together. And the
yeah.
conversation, oh, when we made love in that hot tub. I was just at Riverbend Hot Springs in by the Rio Grande, and it was just like, oh my God, it was so, so beautiful. I had ducks swimming right there on the river at Rio
God,
Grande. Really, really beautiful. And so, it does take effort to bring yourself into environments and spaces where you feel closeness and affection. And it does work to, go to have devoted time, like a retreat. That's one of the reasons why I love doing what I do. It's really valuable to just stop everything else and say, it's us time or it's me time or I'm gonna go and meet somebody. It's for singles and for couples. And even if you come with yourself, you're going to have a range of experience that I guarantee you're probably not going to have that much experience in 4 days that you're going to have. And it starts your engine, it starts your imagination, it starts your juices. And everybody, like without exception, everybody, without one exception, goes like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I had that much aliveness. So sometimes you've got to suspend the disbelief, suspend the doubt, and plunk yourself in situations where you're going to meet people, or you're going to have conversations, or you're going to reinvent. I love that phrase, reinventing, because
Yeah.
we have more creativity, more playfulness. Playfulness doesn't age.
Yeah, and I think in fact, for me, the playfulness is where I really
Mm,
enjoyed being this age because
yeah.
that's kind of where I am now, actually. It's just that the whole thing about just kind of, meeting somebody, wham bam, it's all I'm not really interested in that at all anymore. I'm interested in the storytelling, the playfulness. One Dakini Leah, who's on the thing, says, I think it's beautiful to turn sex into a grand game of make believe, bringing in some childlike playfulness.
Yeah.
100%. It's just
Yeah. I'm right with you, darling. Okay. Yeah, reinventing. It's not about lowering the bar or expecting less. It's about expanding our view of what's possible. And so I can tell you right now in my life, I know I mean, I run into a lot of people, so I have a lot more exposure to this, but 5 people who have just met, new partners in their like 60s, 70s, in one case 80, and she just got married and she wasn't with anybody, and she just got married 2 years ago. And so, like, we are living in a time where the new chapter is possible if we are willing to have an attitude of like, I'm gonna reinvent what is possible here. And if we're stuck, I think the first step is like, please, don't panic. Just
yeah.
name that you're stuck, identify it, call it what it is, own it in a way, but don't dwell there. Stay like, okay, I'm stuck, or I'm really stuck, or I know I haven't gotten that part of my life alive in a long time. And that's okay. That's really okay. So the first step is to own it. And then, reach out for friends who still have that going on in their life, or reach
Yeah.
out for support, coaching. There's all kind of things now that we live in that didn't exist before. I also do private coaching where, I mean, I have to brag a little bit about I do. I mean, there was this couple, they were just about to separate and just like, the whole thing and just go their separate way. Two really intelligent, loving people, grown children, the whole thing, empty nesters. And I'm just remembering how did I do that? I mean, the gentleman, he was like, he really wanted to connect with her, and he would approach her and she could feel his clinginess a mile away. And she had all kinds of fancy reasons, and good ones, by the way, of like, "Mm-mm, no, and so I said, all right, well, we gotta like just end that whole clinginess thing. So I gave him this practice where I said, okay, I want you, even before you think about entering her space, become a mountain. I want you to breathe and become a mountain more and more. Suzanne, I think, entering into these energetic meditative spaces is really helpful. Okay. So I had just I said, before you go in, I want you to breathe and say, I am the mountain. Okay. And I have this spaciousness and sky around me. And it was a little bit more, but then I told it, okay, then once you have that and you really take in a moment, you become the mountain, then I want you to enter the space. And I have to be honest with you, I was like totally shocked. He called me like a week later and he said, Amara, I mean, you got to publish this. This is like, she's been shutting me down for a year. All right. And so then I thought about it. I was like, wow, this is amazing. So then I went into her case. Okay, so she had all these reasons why, his approach was this and that, and he was too fast, too clingy, whatever. And I said, okay, well, what does she become? If he becomes the mountain, what does she become? Okay, so I said, well, you to become the sky, like the sky that hugs the mountain. And she went, ooh, I like that. You don't have to do anything. Ooh, she really liked that. You just
That
have to be the sky
hmm,
and you don't have to perform. Just practice becoming the sky. They told me they went on this little 3-day thing and they had the most intimate time, seriously, that they had had in over a decade. And they were like, Amara, I just cannot thank you enough because that is the internal changes of how we rewrite the old script. The old script, we've got to toss it. It doesn't work. And chances are it never did anyway. And so the beautiful part about getting older and aging well is we can be freer, we can be wiser, and we can be a lot more playful when it doesn't work
yeah,
because that's
I
going to happen.
yeah, and in some cases, I've spoken to men who have had some, very serious health conditions, radical prosectomies, not been able to get an erection. And they've said that sometimes it's those chronic health issues, sadly, that have led to some of the more intimate, deeply intimate moments because they both had to face lots of things, their mortality, their body not functioning in the same way, in a very obvious way, and just kind of go, okay, what can we do now? Whereas I think sometimes when we're younger and our body is just doing its thing,
Yep.
we don't have those conversations
Yeah.
because we kind of don't need to. It's like, yeah,
We
I
don't, but when we get older, we
know.
really we're kind of forced to. And it's happening for me too. And it's like, yeah, we have to have those conversations. And it's all about like how do we develop the capacity to feel that panic of like, oh no, things aren't working the way they
Yeah,
used to. And then like let there be some panic, okay? Panic a little bit. It's like it's a shock, like you said, and then it's like, all right, then, if I'm real here, what is available? What
yeah.
can we do? That's a great question. Like, what can we do here? And if we're truthful, that truthful no, it can open that spaciousness for something more intimate to happen because we finally have to tell the truth and we
Well,
can't
that's
avoid it anymore.
yeah, and I think, as much as that may not sound a benefit of aging, chronic health conditions are never a benefit of aging. One of the things that they do is just help us to have those honest conversations that sometimes we're too afraid to have, I think, at other times of our
Mhm.
life, even though where you might be disappointed in the sex that we're having or frustrated or as you said, maybe it's leading to pain and it's just not fun, frankly, because
Yeah,
or
yeah.
it's fucking predictable and boring because it's become same old all the time,
Well,
and
I know most people I know, like, they'd be alright with some of that same old. It's like, it's not that bad. Like, Cookie was Yogi Berra that said, "When sex is bad, it's pretty bad. When sex is, or when sex is great, it's really great, but when sex is bad, it's still pretty good." You know? And so, the thing is that, the what matters is the what matters to me more and more is the closeness, the connection, and I count everything as part of my erotic repertoire, and when I do that, it leads to more closeness and more affection and more sex, and so this is what, I help people to really feel their erotic experiences. They don't have to look like what they used to. And I seriously mean this. This is what I love. This is my favorite thing to teach is that the doorway is different. Used to be the doorway was through the physical friction,
Yeah.
bottom line. That was primarily what it was. Now we want to have the energetic
Mm.
connection. And there's where the friction, the energy, if you want to call it friction, but the aliveness, the energetic aliveness, that is the doorway, whether that's through our mind, through fantasy, through stories, through conversation, through
Yeah.
placing ourselves in unusual places and feeling that freshness and aliveness. The doorway is different. And so if we believe that, I'm going to find this beautiful, juicy, warm ember. And the benefits of what we can share and exchange in our energy together is really deeply nourishing. The kinds of exchanges
Mm.
that I have now, I'll be honest, it's not like the wild stuff that I had like you, like in my 20s and 30s. Not, it's not like that. But because I've allowed my mind to relax and feel in these places, I am not bored. I'm not comparing. I am feeling the subtle, like, wow,
Yeah.
wow. How does this feel? How good does this feel? So it's not lowering the bar again. It is like discovering the nuances of, and I couldn't even begin to understand what the heck this was. If there's anybody listening that's like in their 20s or 30s, like, what is she talking about? That I couldn't fathom this when I was younger. No way. I
I
didn't
know.
know. You didn't need to, like you said, sex is great. I mean, why do this? But now we have to hunt for it. We have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
hunt the subtle connections. And it can't be a settling. Oh, I'll just settle for affection and we don't need that anymore. I believe that we do need it and it keeps us, you know.
Yeah, I mean, look, sex, orgasms, whether they're on their own or with a partner, have all sorts of health benefits, as we know. I mean, they do all sorts of great things, and they increase our lifespan, and they reduce cognitive decline, and they suggest that they can help with depression. So we know all of this good stuff. I mean, for me, the fact that men equally, most of them can't repeat as they used to, it's
Right.
normal. It's normally a one-shot deal when you're, an older guy, and some guy, I've met quite a few guys recently that don't ejaculate anymore in the same way because of health issues and stuff. So I think that, for me, it's almost like meeting an age-appropriate man is meeting somebody who's at the same energetic level, right? They're not trying to go fast because
Yeah.
they go fast and then they're done for like 2 days. So, it's like
Right.
so it's
Right.
all about the lengthening of the experience and the lengthening of the pleasure and giving each other permission, like you said, to go have a pee break or I love a cup of tea in the middle or,
There you go. There you go.
or
You wasn't doing that when you were 25. Like, are you serious? Right? Right? But like I love the the new erotic language because it's something that we this is something that we can learn. It's something that we can practice. It's something that we can fumble and stumble and, make mistakes and everything. And it's also something that we can refine and really get better at because this is um the this like a beautiful erotic experience nowadays like lasts for days because I realize, I don't know about you, but man, I realize more now that time is precious, right? It's really, really precious. So having a loop of intimacy in that interlude is like, wow, it's just absolute like gold. And so I'm much more nourished now than I think I was when I was younger, and honestly, just a lot more grateful of what we are truly giving and exchanging.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm totally with you that one erotic experience, I can last off for days on that,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Well, for me, it's, I'm not living with anybody, and so for me, I look forward to these things and I plan them and I get all worked up about them, and then I get very excited. And so there's a buildup that takes days, and then there's a coming down which takes days. And yeah, one can last for, one erotic experience. I can keep going on that for a week, and I'm super happy. But I know that you've got one of your fabulous retreats coming up.
Oh,
And
thank you.
and I'd love to just talk a little bit about, because it's in September, isn't it? So it's not that far away.
Yes, yes, September 23rd to the 27th, and I'm doing a ceremonial spiritual sexuality workshop for singles and couples. It's called Kodoshka. And it, like, if there's one thing I know we need, this is it. This is devoted time where these things can really layer, and the nuances, and let things arise and be changed and shifted and then coming back together and integrated. And then I'm also doing next May, and it's like, put it in your bucket list, right? I'd love to see you there too.
Oh
Go
God,
anyone.
I love to
And
come.
this is called Mystic Rapture, right? And it's in Costa Rica. And I will admit, I go there because I love to, right? And just I love to just be in, like, it's so surrounded by the ocean and the jungle, and you could hear the monkeys and everything. And so
Yeah.
this is like, for me, I can't tell you how much I look forward to this. It's so beautiful. I have a complete reset every time, and this will be our third year of doing this. And so it's very, very, very healing. And I have the time. It's a small group. And so we really have time to introduce some of these practices that allow us to enhance our connection, our intimacy, wherever we are, whether we're having stumbles or problems or disconnection, or we're having a grand old time, and we simply want to have a space and a place to really revel and savor in the time together. So the Kudoshka one is in September. The Mystic Rapture is in next May. You can see it all on my website, amaracharles.com.
Yeah, because I know that I had a follower who went to Costa Rica last year and on his own, and he absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. So it's something that, as you said, you don't have to be a couple to go on it. You can be a single. I would absolutely love to be in Costa Rica with you next May. Maybe that's that's my goal, is to be with you in Costa Rica. I would adore that. And
I would love to just meet you in person, darling, and give you a hug. I really would. I know that it would be orgastic.
it would be. I would love that. But it's been so lovely to talk with you, Amara, and as always. And I really relish the opportunity to talk with a woman, of a similar age about the challenges that we do go through at this age with regard to sex and pleasure, because it's not easy and it does require a reset. And we do stumble sometimes through this. And I know that many of us have found a way to get to the other side, to a good place. And I know that there's still people who are working on that. And for those people that are thinking about who to work with, I can't recommend Amara more. She's been doing this stuff for like 3 decades, and she really knows her shit. And as she
Well,
said, you're going through some of that yourself. And I think that's really important, is to be able to speak to somebody who has some idea of what we are all going through as older people
yeah.
when we're
And I
trying to.
see I have a one more second here because I see a little question here. Dakini
Oh,
Lay said, "What can a single expect to experience?"
yeah,
And at the Kodoshka, that's singles come and they have a variety of experiences with different people. I like to say it's like a relationship, therapy session on steroids, in the sense that you're going to go through everything that you've gone through, all the resistances, and what should I say, and learning how to create boundaries and learning how to create agreements so that you can create a safe space. That's like really paramount. Create a
yeah,
safe space so that you can relax, let go, and enjoy. And so this is a couple can come or a single can come and experience a wide variety of experiences that I guarantee you will not have this at home. It's shamanic healing practices. It's one of the big differences. One of my big passions is that we can bring spiritual healing into our lovemaking. And there's nothing more beautiful in my book of like being able to be tender and bring healing and orgasticness to each other. And so I hope that answers your question. Thank you. It's a beautiful question, Leah. Dekini me.
Good. Anyway, I'm gonna have a lovely evening, what's left of it. And I know you're in the States, so it's early there, but have a lovely day. And thank you so much for joining me on Substack Live. For anyone who's watching, I'm Suzanne Noble, and I host this pretty much once or even sometimes twice a week on Substack Live. And I do a weekly podcast, and I do a Sunday blog, which is usually related to my own experiences, or I get a guest post in. Um, I would really welcome, if you're not already following me and subscribing, then please do subscribe. Amara's on Substack, but not active, but I'm very happy.
I am now. You have inspired me, darling. I'm 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 gonna go. I like it. And I like it. So watch out. Stay tuned.
Watch out. Yeah, so can subscribe to Amara, and then she's gonna start doing stuff here, so that'll be very exciting. But yeah, it's been really lovely to have you, and hope to see you in Costa Rica next May.
Take care, darling.
Peace
Bye
out.
bye.
Bye.